Hey, I'm Mike Ivankovich, host of the What's It Worth? Ask Mike the Appraiser radio show. We're now in our third year in the WBCB 1490 AM in the greater Philadelphia area. And if you're looking for some new and interesting content for your station, we hope you're going to consider adding our What's It Worth show to your programming mix. Realtors sell houses. We help our listeners sell what's inside their house. Turn a house upside down and shake it. What falls out is what our show deals with: antiques, collectibles, and general household contents. We generally have a fairly targeted audience. Most of our listeners are a 50-plus male and female demographic. Most are highly interested in buying and selling antiques and collectibles. Many are preparing to move or downsize their house. Many are looking to liquidate estate, but the one thing they all have in common is they all want to know what their things are worth, and that's what our show is about. Since the show debuted in 2014, we've had more than 125 different shows with more than 200 guests from all around the country. Each show has three objectives. Number one, we want our listeners to understand the value of what they own. Secondly, we want them to understand how and where they could sell it without getting taken advantage of and how not to get cheated. But thirdly, and most importantly, we want to provide a fun, entertaining, and educational format for our listeners each and every week.
Fired up and ready to go. Let's bring it on. We're going to find out what it's worth when they ask the appraiser, and check in right now with Mike Ivankovich.
Our show has 6 distinct 9-minute segments. The first 2 segments are where we have a special guest each week. Usually they call in, sometimes they're in studio, but this is where we talk about a different topic each week, trying to educate our listeners about, again, what their things are worth and how they and where they can sell them for as much as possible. For example, in 2016, we've talked about such cool things as diamonds, gold jewelry, collectible coins, and junk silver. We talked about skateboards, Hot Wheel cars, and Department 56 houses. We've had realtors talk about the need to depersonalize and declutter a home when listing it. And we've had numerous specialists and guests talking about such wide-ranging topics as high-end art, sterling silver and silver plate, brown furniture, Hitchcock chairs, cast iron collectibles, old postcards, vintage tennis collectibles, musical instruments, Nintendo and other video games, Legos, and a whole lot more. We even had a live drone flying around the room demonstrating the potential for real estate drone videography. This segment generally lasts from 9 to 9:20 each week. At 9:20, we move on to our What's It Worth game, which generally consists of 5 distinct questions. The first 2 questions are what we call What's It Worth? That's where we provide an item that recently sold at auction and give our listeners 3 numerical choices. Did it sell for A, B, or C? Then we move on to our over and under game. That's where we throw out an item and throw out a number and say, did that particular item sell for over or under this particular price? And then lastly, we have the which sold for more segment, where we give them 2 items to say which one sold for more money. Everything we used are items that recently sold at auction, and most importantly, they're things that people can relate to. We don't talk about anvils and Venetian blinds and things like that. We talk about cool things such as celebrity items. What did Ringo Starr's drum set recently sell for at auction? We talk about Hollywood items. What did Dorothy's ruby red slippers from The Wizard of Oz sell for at auction? We'll talk about sports memorabilia. What did Joe Frazier's boxing gloves that when he boxed Muhammad Ali sell for at auction? We'll talk historical items. What did a lock of George Washington hair sell for at auction? We try to come up with cool things that everybody can relate to. So it doesn't matter if you know anything about antiques or collectibles. You're still going to have fun playing the What's It Worth game each week, because we talk about things everybody can relate to. The next 20 minutes of the show are where I have a variety of topics which I vary from week to week. Sometimes we have Mike's insights into the trade. That's where we talk about auctioneers, antique dealers, appraisers, and how to deal with them. We'll talk about tag sales, garage sales, what to do, what works, what doesn't work. We talk about different strategies, buying strategies, selling strategies. We talk about eBay. We talk about Craigslist. We talk about the internet. We'll talk about Etsy and Pinterest and some of these other things that a lot of my listeners are not all that familiar with. But we'll just spend maybe 9 minutes each week talking about Mike's insights into the trade. We have another segment called Mike's Real World Prices. This is where we move on beyond the rich and the famous items, such as Dorothy's ruby red slippers that sold for $4 million. And we talk about things the average person has in their home, such as what do Hummels bring at auction today? What's a dining room set worth? What's a collectible print worth? What's a wall stunning picture worth? What's a Bessie Pease Gutman picture worth? Things that a lot of people might have in their homes, and we're talking more real world prices. We also have a segment called This Month in Collecting History. It's a pretty cool segment put together by a colleague of ours where we talk about key dates in history, such as on this particular date, Kit Carson was born, and Kit Carson's rifle recently sold at auction for $1.2 million. Or we talk about the D-Day flag, the American flag that flew on a landing craft on Omaha Beach, and that just sold for $45,000. So we'll tie in history with antiques and collectibles. We have different guests coming on later on the show. Sometimes we have on Jenna the Millennial, who's our resident millennial. And Jenna talks about the way millennials look at things, which is oftentimes different than me and my listeners who are over 50 years old. We have realtors, we have authors, we have different people coming on to talk about some of the things that they specialize in. We sometimes talk about special events. You know, we're associated with certain museums. We'll talk about a certain museum opening. Sometimes there's a very special auction coming up. We'll talk about that, special happenings, openings, events, things like that. We've talked to historical societies about their show openings. So we just try and keep people abreast of what's going on in the local area. And then there's the final show wrap. That's where we talk about a whole wide range of kind of zany things, such as insane auction prices. You know, the $24,000 map that somebody found in the garage that they were ready to throw away. We'll talk about the $1 million worth of baseball cards that somebody found on the kitchen floor. Things that just don't make any sense. Why was this particular painting worth $46 million in New York? Just crazy things that oftentimes don't make a lot of sense. But that's how we wrap up the show. So we go from a guest to the What's It Worth game, to wide-ranging topics, to whatever we want to wrap it up with, and we kick it off for next week's show. So, you know, sometimes we talk about Mike's Collectible Minute. You know, we come up with things that people probably don't understand. Now, for example, how did we come up with the 21-gun salute? Well, someone in the 19th century came up with the fact that if you take 1776, the year that our country was founded on, and add 1 plus 7 plus 7 plus 6, equals 21, hence the 21-gun salute. Not 20 guns, not 22 guns, but 21-gun salute. And we try and come up with some fun things that our listeners probably don't know about, and that's part of the way we wrap up the show. So that's basically What's It Worth? Ask Mike the Appraiser is about. We've been doing it for 2.5 years. We have a lot of fun doing it. The show goes by quickly because we do have so much fun doing it. We started as a 30-minute show. We grew to an hour fairly quickly. We probably could fill a couple hours if we had to because there's a whole lot of material out there. So I guess our question to you is, would you be interested in adding our show to your programming mix? If so, we'd like to talk to you about it. I own 100% of the show content. It's all mine. I put it all together, and I can definitely adapt my show to your programming needs. So I'll follow up with you. I'll give you a call in a couple weeks or so, but if you want to call me earlier, 215-264-4304 is the best way to reach me. Mike Ivankovich, 215-264-4304. And you're invited to listen to our show every Friday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, WBCB 1490 a.m. You can get it on the internet, and I look forward to talking to you.